The rain came down in sheets that November evening, turning the Philadelphia streets into rivers of gray. Inside the crowded emergency room, Sarah Mitchell pressed her palm against the cold window, watching strangers rush past with umbrellas and briefcases, each one racing towards somewhere warm. She'd been standing in that same spot for 3 hours, and the coffee in her trembling hand had long gone cold. The doctor's words still echoed in her mind. "I'm sorry. Ms. Mitchell, your mother has maybe 6 months. The cancer has spread too far. 6 months." The number felt both impossibly short and unbearably long. She was 26 years old, working double shifts at a diner to make rent, and now she was supposed to figure out how to pay for treatments that insurance wouldn't cover, how to take time off work she couldn't afford to miss, how to watch the only person who'd ever truly loved her slip away one day at a time. Sarah leaned her forehead against the glass and let the tears come, not caring who saw, not caring about anything except the crushing weight of feeling utterly, devastatingly alone. "Excuse me, miss?" The voice was soft, hesitant. Sarah wiped her eyes quickly and turned to find an elderly woman standing beside her. No taller than 5 feet, with silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. She wore a volunteer badge that read Marion and carried a small paper cup of fresh coffee. "I thought you might need this more than the one you're holding," Marion said, her eyes crinkling with a gentle smile. "And maybe someone to sit with for a minute?" Sarah wanted to say she was fine, wanted to politely decline like she'd learned to do her whole life, never wanting to burden anyone. But something in Marion's face, a kindness that seemed to see right through her walls, made her nod instead. They sat together on the hard plastic chairs, and without planning to, Sarah started talking. She told this stranger everything, about her mom, about the bills, about feeling like she was drowning and no one could see her going under. Marion listened without interrupting, without offering empty platitudes or useless advice. When Sarah finally fell silent, exhausted from the weight of her own words, Marion reached into her purse and pulled out a small, worn notebook. "I'm going to write something down," Marion said, "and I want you to promise me you'll think about it, okay?" She scribbled an address on the paper and pressed it into Sarah's hand. "Come to this place tomorrow evening around 6. It's nothing fancy, just a community center in my neighborhood. We have a group that meets there, people who understand what it's like to carry heavy things." Sarah looked at the address, skeptical. She'd never been one for support groups or church gatherings or whatever this was. "I don't know if that's really my thing." "I didn't think it was mine either," Marion said, standing up with a slight groan. "But sometimes the things we need most are the things we'd never think to look for. Just come once. If you hate it, you never have to come back." She patted Sarah's shoulder and walked away, leaving. Sarah holding the address like a lifeline she wasn't sure she wanted to grab. The next evening, Sarah almost didn't go. She drove past the community center twice, talking herself out of it, telling herself it would be awkward and unhelpful and a waste of time. But something kept pulling her back. Maybe the memory of Marion's kind eyes, maybe the desperate hope that somewhere in this city someone might understand. The building was old brick with warm light spilling from the windows. Inside, a dozen people sat in a circle of mismatched chairs, ranging from teenagers to seniors, each one looking as uncertain as Sarah felt. Marion spotted her immediately and lit up like Sarah was exactly who she'd been waiting for. "You came!" "Everyone, this is Sarah." The group welcomed her with waves and gentle hellos, and as the meeting began, Sarah realized this wasn't what she'd expected at all. These weren't people sharing their problems to wallow in them. They were sharing their resources, their time, their very lives with each other. A young man named Marcus talked about how the group had helped him find a job after he'd been homeless for 2 years. An older woman named Patricia explained how they'd organized meal trains when her husband had a stroke. A college student named Emma described how they'd pitched in to help her pay for textbooks when her financial aid fell through. This wasn't charity. This was family, built by choice and sustained by the simple radical act of showing up for each other. "So what do you need, Sarah?" Marion asked gently. "What's your heavy thing?" Sarah's throat tightened. She'd spent so long pretending she had it all together, never asking for help, never admitting she was struggling. But looking around at these faces, these strangers who'd somehow become something more in the span of an hour, she found herself speaking the truth. "My mom is dying and I can't afford to help her. I can't afford to take time off work. I can't afford anything, and I'm terrified of losing her knowing. I couldn't do more. Her voice cracked. I don't know what I need. I just know I can't do this alone. The room fell quiet, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the silence of people thinking, planning, preparing to act. Marcus spoke first. My cousin owns a home health care company. Let me talk to him about getting some free nursing visits. Patricia added, I'll organize meals. You shouldn't have to worry about cooking. Right now. Emma pulled out her phone. I'm starting a fundraiser tonight. We'll share it on social media, get the word out. Sarah sat there stunned as person after person volunteered something. Rides to appointments, help with bills, someone to sit with her mom when Sarah had to work. Marion squeezed her hand. This is what we do, sweetheart. We catch each other when we fall. Over the next 3 months, Sarah watched a miracle unfold. Not the kind that reversed disease or stopped time, but the kind that proved love was real and people were good and humanity could be beautiful when it chose to be. The fundraiser raised enough to cover 2 months of experimental treatment. The group took turns staying with her mother, reading to her, keeping her company so Sarah could sleep. They showed up at the diner with extra tips and encouraging notes. They became the net that caught her when she stumbled. Her mother passed away on a quiet Tuesday morning in February, with Sarah holding one hand and Marion holding the other. The group filled the funeral, standing room only. Proof that her mother hadn't left this world unmourned or unloved. At the reception afterward, Sarah stood to speak, looking out at faces that had been strangers 4 months ago. I don't know if I believe in destiny or fate or divine intervention, she said. Her voice steady despite the tears. But I believe in Marion asking a crying stranger in a hospital if she needed coffee. I believe in every single person in this room who chose kindness when you could have chosen to look away. My mother died, knowing she was cared for, knowing I wasn't alone. And that's a gift I can never repay. You don't repay it, Marion called out from the front row. You pass it on. And Sarah did. She kept coming to the meetings. But now she came ready to give instead of just receive. She helped Marcus study for his GED. She drove Patricia's husband to physical therapy. She became the person who noticed when someone new walked through the door, looking lost and afraid, and she made sure they knew they weren't alone. A year later, Sarah stood in that same community center, but this time she was helping set up chairs for the evening meeting. A young woman walked in, hesitant and red-eyed, looking exactly like Sarah had that first night. Without thinking, Sarah walked over, extending her hand and her heart to this stranger who wouldn't be a stranger for long. Hi, I'm Sarah, she said softly. Can I get you some coffee? The young woman's eyes filled with tears of relief, and Sarah recognized that look, that desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, someone would see her struggle and care enough to help carry it. Yes, please, the woman whispered. As Sarah poured the coffee, she felt Marion's hand on her shoulder, the older woman's smile full of pride and love. The circle continued, expanding with each person who chose to show up, to be vulnerable, to believe that the world could be better, because they decided to make it so. The rain still fell on Philadelphia streets. Bills still needed paying. Hearts still broke. But inside that old brick building with its mismatched chairs and donated coffee, humanity proved itself again and again. Not through grand gestures or viral moments, but through the quiet, steady choice to see someone else's pain and say, let me help you carry that. Sarah had learned that you don't have to be rich or powerful or perfect to change someone's life. You just have to be willing to look at another person and recognize yourself in their struggle. You have to be brave enough to accept help when you need it, and generous enough to offer it when you can. You have to believe that we're all in this together, that no one should have to face their darkest moments alone. Her mother once told her that the meaning of life wasn't found in what you accumulated, but in what you gave away. Standing in that community center, surrounded by people who'd caught her when she fell and who she now helped catch in return, Sarah finally understood. Love wasn't something you ran out of. It was something that multiplied when you shared it. The young woman took the coffee with shaking hands. Thank you, she said. You don't know what this means. Sarah smiled, remembering a rainy night in a hospital when a stranger's kindness had saved her. Actually, she said, I know exactly what it means, and I'm here for as long as you need me, because that's what we do. We show up, we hold space. We prove that kindness isn't weakness and compassion isn't naive. We look at the broken, hurting world and we choose to be the light that reminds others they're not alone in the darkness. We become for each other exactly what we need most. Proof that humanity is worth believing in, that love is real, and that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply be there for someone else. And it all starts with a simple question, asked by someone brave enough to care. Can I get you some coffee?